Alex, what's the most important thing to have on your RV in 2025 besides a toilet?
Good internet connectivity. Parks and things in the middle of the nation, internet gets pretty bad. You need to get good internet, and that doesn't come standard.
We're finally getting the Tesla of the RV world. Have you seen the Pebble Flow?
The Pebble Flow. It looks pretty great. So it's an RV trailer. You have to pull it. It doesn't drive by itself, but it is all electric and it is super smart, controlled from an iPad. You can do things like have it turn itself around if it's not attached to your hitch. Tell it to attach itself to your truck's hitch. It'll crawl up, grab it, lock itself on. It is pretty nifty. It's covered with solar panels, so it recharges itself. It's really feature-packed.
So it also says it's pre-wired for Starlink. What does that mean?
Well, so it doesn't actually include a Starlink. It's all set up so you can mount one on the roof and get the cables in and get it plugged in, right? They figured it all out. So if you get a Starlink, you can pretty easily put it up there and get it connected, providing your internet.
So is it actually a Tesla RV or?
No, unless there's some hidden relationship. It doesn't look like it's related at all. It's a different company. There's a bunch of new electric RVs that have been announced this year. So there are startups like Lightship and Thor that are coming out with new ones. And Winnebago is coming out with one. So it's exciting times. We're going to get a lot of new electric RV products. Interestingly, the battery on the Pebble Flow is 45 kilowatt hours. So it's actually a little less than half of what's on a Cybertruck. But I mean, the whole thing isn't really self-driving, right? It's just assist on tow. So it only needs a smaller battery. And because the top is covered in solar panels, it can charge its own battery. But it's about 1.1 kilowatts of solar panels on the top, which means, even with sunny days and 10 hours a day of charging, you end out with 4.5 days to fully charge the battery. Depending on your use case, maybe you drive somewhere and then you sit there for 2 weeks and then you drive somewhere else. For those people, you'll discover that it's entirely solar and you never need to plug it in. I think for a lot of people, you are on occasion going to need to plug it in because the solar won't keep up if it's cloudy and if you're driving more often than you're stopped.
Or just doing donuts.
Or just doing donuts in the parking lot.
So how much are all these electric RVs going to change RV life?
So I think there's a couple things coming together here. There's the electric RVs, which are something. And then there's Starlink internet, which makes internet better. And then there's bonding routers like the Miri, right? You put a Starlink into this, you put in 2 SIMs. Now you have internet wherever, right? This is basically what UFD Tech used. They kind of jury-rigged it with Speedify on a computer with multiple SIM cards and a Starlink, and now you can just buy it in a package from Miri.tech. And they went coast to coast, only losing internet for a few minutes in the Rocky Mountains. You can go anywhere in America with 2 SIM cards and a Starlink. There's no spots, except a couple tunnels where that won't work. So you put together the electric RV, the Starlink, the bonding. Now you have a different experience, right? Comfort, charging, internet where you can just work from anywhere. You set up with your solar panels, so you plug in, and one of your 3 internet sources will work. Go anywhere and work. I think it really will open it up. I think there's a lot of people who have excuses why they can't RV today because, if they need to do a meeting for work, it might not work there in the middle of Yellowstone.
If they're just using their mobile hotspot or something.
Yeah. So I think you put a bunch of things that are happening together and you get a really huge change.
So why do you need more than just Starlink?
So Starlink is amazing. Like if you can get open sky in a place with no other internet, they can give you, 250 down, 50 megabits up, but it's kind of unreliable. If you try to do video calls on it, you will start noticing every 15 seconds a change of satellites. Sometimes you get 15 really bad seconds where it's like 1 megabit. If you're underneath trees, no Starlink for you. If you're in an area where there are tall buildings, it can only work while the satellite is in the space between the buildings, and you will find it becomes really unreliable. If it doesn't have a great view of the sky, it is so flaky, it's frustrating. But in those cases, you use it with Speedify with bonded cellular, and Speedify will pop you back and forth between Starlink and cellular and keep you online.
If you're somewhere with tall buildings, you probably do have access to cellular.
That's right.
If you're somewhere with tall trees,
you might not.
Yeah. But if you have a little bit, you can add it all up.
Yeah, 2 unreliable internet connections, bonded together can give you something pretty decent.
Now, will this let you use more than one Starlink?
Oh, yeah. It's got the multiple Ethernets, and we regularly run with 2 Starlinks. In our office, we've now got 2 Starlinks on the roof, both plugged in here. If you read their instructions, they say if you have 2 Starlinks, make sure they're at least 1 foot apart. I was expecting them to say 50 feet, 50 meters or something like that. No. They said put them on your roof a foot apart and it'll work fine. And actually, a neat feature that they just added in a software update is that, there are 4 Ethernet ports in the back, and 2 by default are local ports and 2 are internet ports. You can change any of them. You can have 4 internet ports if you want, and have up to 4 Starlinks in. I think that's getting a little crazy. At some point, you're just going to max out the satellite.
Could other people in a campground affect your internet connection?
Well, yeah. Starlink has a finite amount of capacity per square area. And I know, interestingly, strangely enough, in London, they've apparently hit it. There's so many people who put it on their roof. I think in any given campground, you're really unlikely to hit it. I think you can have a whole bunch in it. They let you put 2 a foot apart, and that's fine. There is some limits, though. I bet that if you have 30 RVs parked next to each other and everyone's running speed tests at the same time, I bet they do affect it. But I think that if people are just kind of sort of using it normally, I don't think the kind of groups you get in a normal campground probably are going to hit that at the same time. Mm-hmm. It takes everybody going at the same time to blow things up. And of course, cellular, same story, right? I mean, actually maybe worse here, because these RV campgrounds are often pretty far from towers. So you're all connecting to the same tower, probably on the same channel, having to go at lower bit rates to make sure that the messages make through the tower. I think that a lot of people being on cellular at the same time out in the campground is likely to slow down everyone's cellular.
So that might be another reason that it's good to have multiple types of connections. So is the Miri the only router that can do that, or are there other options?
I love the Miri. It is rugged. It has 2 SIMs. It has 2 Wi-Fis. It has 4 Ethernet. It can use the Sony camera batteries. You can even tether cell phones in front of it. But no, it's not the only option. I mean, you can get some, router with OpenWRT, the open source operating system for routers. Put Speedify on there. A lot of people are just using Raspberry Pi 5s. If you're only sort of trying to connect, a cellular modem with a Starlink, that works great. A Raspberry Pi 5 can go really, really fast. Give you Ethernet out, plug that into your router. It's pretty nice. So you've got Starlink, you've got cellular. If you can afford it, if you can have cellular on 2 different providers, Verizon and T-Mobile, AT&T and Verizon, whatever.
Or maybe 4G and 5G.
4G and 5G, Wi-Fi. Right? Those tend to get you onto different towers. Although a lot of 5G in this country is running on shared channels with the 4G, that they just have one channel going to one tower that'll talk 4G or 5G to you. So a lot of times that's not actually as big a gain as people expect. Now, the one more thing that isn't really ready yet is self-driving. An electric self-driving RV with Starlink internet. You get in it, you go to sleep, you wake up at Niagara Falls, you spend the day sightseeing, you get back in, you wake up somewhere in Ohio, the next day you wake up at Graceland, right?
You could have a whole road trip and not experience any of the travel time.
And not experience any of the travel time. That would be so revolutionary. But I'm afraid not so great for the environment.
No, probably not.
Right? If I could sleep and drive, I'd probably do 10 times as much driving as I do today. So that's, you win some, you lose some. If it's solar, not quite as bad.
Solar can only get you so far.
That's right. I mean, even the Pebble Flow covered in solar panels, it takes like 4.5 days, I think, to charge half of a Cybertruck battery. Yeah, people have asked Elon Musk, will you ever put solar panels in the cars? And he said, what's the point? A day's worth of charging only gets you a couple miles. Mm-hmm. Much better to have some big charging thing that you plug into when you're there.
That's it. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe for more connectivity tech knowledge.